Hey, Planeswalkers, Mythras here. Hope you're doing well and staying safe. As always, my friends, today is one of my favorite days. Yesterday was a favorite day. We covered the historic tier list. You guys can go ahead and check that out, and gals. And today we're doing standard. This is a culmination of all the decks and work that I've done over about the last 2.5 months for all of Kaldheim. Happy to visit that here today and share with you what I have because it's one of my favorite things to do. So very excited about that. If you do have questions or comments, please let me know. Feel free to hop in the Discord server, my friends. It is available to you down below in the description. Now, while you're down there, check out the timestamps because we are going to go ahead and talk about the tier list. I'll give you guys the list for both best of 1, best of 3. We're going to cover key observations and trends, and then we'll wrap that all up with a couple of key decks here from the last tier list. So very, very excited about that. And lastly, please feel free to flip me a like if you like today's video. Other great ways to support the channel, many of which you guys know, but also down below in the details, as always, my friends. So with that, we're going to jump right into the tier list here. I do have about 50 plus decks. The information is at your hands, at your fingertips down below. Now, if you're new or returning, a tier list for me is a 1, 2, 3 system. We've got enough decks. I've gotten 4 for you here today. Essentially a stack ranking of what deck is going to perform better than the other one. Best of 3 is a little bit different beast. I take into consideration tournaments. I take into consideration statistics, gameplay, several things there as well. So here's what we got in terms of the tier list today. Very excited, like I said, and looking forward to sharing this one with you here today. So with that, let us get right into it. I'm going to zoom in here so my eyes can see a little bit better. Let's go 200%. There, yours are probably going to be a little bit better as well. I'm going to move my lovely face over here, or ugly face, whatever you want to say. But here's what we got going on, my friends. So again, this list is available for you down below. We're going to start with best of 1, and then we're going to talk about best of 3, and then I'll go into some observations because that will add a little bit of context for you here in terms of what you are seeing. So best of 1, we still have mono white life gain, mono white aggro, red snow, Jeskai Cycle, also Boros Cycle, Sultai Ultimatum, Team Returns, and Dimir Lurrus Rogues here at the top end. Our tier 2, we have mono black auras, mono red shadow spear. So this is my deck that I piloted. So just another flavor of essentially mono red aggro, mono red snow, mono red boast, Jeskai Pyromancer Cycling, Sultai, 4-color Sultai Yorin Control, Rakdos Sacrifice, Jund Magecraft, Teamer Ultimatum or Team Returns, mono green Stompy, Teamer Aggro, also known as white Gruul, Boros Equipment, Naya Adventures, Gruul Food, mono green Food, Naya Aggro Adventures, Naya Winata, Is It Tempo. Additionally, in tier 3, we got Azor's Fable, Esper Yorin Doom, Selesnya Toski, mono green aggro, Boros aggro, Is It Snow Giants, Boros Knights, 4-color Yorion Doom, Golgari Midrange, Jund Adventures, Dimir Yorin Control, Naya Runes, mono green bombs, 5-color Shrines, Abzan Yorin Control, Orzhov Doom Tier Grid. Then last but not least, in our tier 4, we got a Grixis Control, Jeskai Mutate, Esper Gyruda, Blink, that should be Gyruda, oh, there, now it's right. Ban Mutate, Abzan Yorion Midrange, Abzan Adventures, Mardu Gigantha Winata, Jeskai Spells, Jeskai Flyers, Azorus Flyers to round it all out. So that is our best of 1, Planeswalkers. Again, if you got questions or comments, love to hear from you and let me know. Additionally, I do have a web page that you guys can go find all this information as well, and some of the flavor text that I like to share at times with you as there too. So next we have standard best of 3. So here for tier 1, we got Team Returns, mono white aggro, mono red snow, Jeskai Pyromancer Cycling, 4-color Jeskai Cycle, again, Boros Cycling, Dimir Lurrus Rogues, Naya Adventures. In tier 2, we have Naya Aggro Adventures, Gruul Food, Sultai Ultimatum, Teamer Aggro, again, White Gruul, Is It Tempo, 4-color Sultai Yorin Control, 4-color Yorin Doom, Boros Aggro, Mono Green Food, Rakdos Sacrifice, Mono Green Stompy, Jund Magecraft, Dimir Yorin Control, Azor's Fable, Esper Yorin Doom, Grixis Control, mono red Shadowspear, mono red Boast. Then we have mono green aggro, Temur Ultimatum, mono white life gain, Golgari midrange, Boros equipment, Naya Fury, Naya Winata, Jeskai Mutate, Naya Runes, Izzet, Snow Giants, Abzan Yorin Control, Orzhov Doom Tier Grid, Selesnya Toski, Boros Knights, Mono Black Auras, and then rounding out the bottom here for our Tier 4, Mono Green Bombs, 5-color Shrines, Esper Gyruda, Blink, missed that one again, Abzan Yorin Midrange, Jeskai Spells, Jund Adventures, Abzan Adventures, Bant Mutate, Mardo, Giganta Winata, Azor's Flyers, and Jeskai Flyers. So certainly a lot going on here. Like I said, about 50 deck lists. I appreciate you allowing me to share that with you. Obviously, I'm sure you guys want to get into it, and gals. That, again, list is for you down below. Additionally, deck links there for you, videos there for you, all sorts of stuff, and then you can go to my website, which will have all that information readily available as well. So lots of decks, lots of things going on. So let's talk now about some of the key observations and trends, because this is going to be very important to add a little bit of context behind these things for you. So quickly here, just a couple of pieces. The first one, in terms of what I'm calling player favorites. So the biggest thing that I would say between last tier list and this one, not a lot changed. Many of you, including myself, are starting to hold rut or stick to what we know best. And also, it's also can be more of a timing cycle thing there as well. So at this point, I would pretty much say that things have been solved. I don't think we're going to really see a big contender in the list. Obviously, we're going to Strixhaven anyway, but that's a big piece. I will say one of the ones that I didn't get time to or throw on here was the Temur Luka version. I think that might have had some legs to it, but I will call out another deck here in a second. So, and partly for that one is just really times at bat. There has been, if you guys watched the last weekly series here on the meta, we are seeing a Gigantha Naya Adventures type deck, token type deck, doing really well in tournaments, and I don't have that particular version here as well, but that's certainly one that could have impacted this a little bit more. So not quite as broad, a few in there, things to consider, and maybe some pull forward there into Strixhaven as well. Now, we had the Kaldheim Championship. I did talk about that again in the weekly, but it's important to talk about it here. Again, shout out to Arnie. The big pieces here was, like I've always said, Rogues was never dead. Arnie certainly proved that, read the meta, played it well, and ran the deck nicely. So congrats as always there. But the other one that I like to call out is the Gruul food deck by Kushiro. That deck, in my opinion, for best of 3 is probably one of the ones that was a sleeper, and also added a little bit more power to this tier list. I think I put it in tier 2 there, if I recall. So that is certainly something that's noteworthy. Now, when we look behind us now and take a moment to pause and reflect on Kaldheim, a couple of big things certainly have happened, and as we leave this plane, we'll then talk about Strixhaven for a second too. But the biggest piece here is lands did make an impact. Snow became a bigger thing, and I'd say is certainly if you're drafting, it was a big one. You guys can check out our my call with DeFore and collaboration. Great talk there on some of those strategies. Now, the culture wasn't crushed by the Vikings, as I like to say. We had a nice, healthy continuation of the meta, which is very important. The modal lands continue to help with some of that fixing. And then to round out, a lot of the top decks generally didn't fall out of favor right away. So pretty interesting. That's always my advice, and that's the biggest advice I can give you as you move forward in Strixhaven. A lot of these things are still going to be just fine until things kind of get sorted or settled. Generally, I feel like it's 2 weeks to a month, but a lot of us like to jump into a lot of those new cards right away. Just because they're new doesn't mean they're the best, but it also doesn't mean that they're bad either. So you got to pick the right blend that makes sense for you. Now, Furthermore, in terms of those reflections, there are a few surprises that I found pretty powerful and interesting. Again, I did mention the Boros colors, red and white, were going to be the strongest. We continue to see that here. Dimir rogues, or Dimir was strong, but we see this as a note. And additionally, what I would have not have guessed was how powerful this continued to be going into Kaldheim. So that's a big one there to remember and for us to continue to watch. The other thing to close out a few pieces of, and not only that, was mono red snow aggro still good in best of 3 in a great deck. Other things to close out here are Doomscar was certainly hyped. I still think it's a great card. Maybe it's going to be in a different flavor here in the next block or the next meta that we got coming out, but we never really saw it come to fruition. The other thing we didn't see a strong rise in was the Azor's control deck. We did have the Fabled deck, was pretty hot for a while, but then didn't really go anywhere or become a fully adopted portion of the meta. Additionally, didn't see it show up in lots of key tournaments, kind of a thing. So big thing to keep an eye on, those kinds of things, to kind of share some pointers there. The other thing that I was obviously toting a little bit too was just mid-range. Now, if we settle on Naya as being a flavor of one of its 100 versions of being that mid-range deck, then I would digress from that. But I certainly was thinking there was something else going to be there. Rakdos Sacrifice certainly came in, and it left as fast as it did as well. So those are a couple of big things. And then lastly, the other one that was kind of interesting was Foretold, or Foretell didn't really become a big mechanic, which is, you know, I've seen some cool Jund stuff as well with Devour, things to keep an eye on even moving forward. And I didn't cover that deck per se either, was one that I wanted to spend some time on, but obviously that is the real currency there. Is the fact that Team Returns was really the only one that made use of this. Obviously, you could say Sultai Ultimatum as well, but it's really the Epiphany card with the additional turn. So pretty interesting. Certainly some surprises worth mentioning, like I said. So last but not least, I know I've gotten a lot of questions from you folks on Strixhaven. I'll touch on that in a minute here, and if I do get time, maybe tomorrow, which is today when you're watching this, I'll have a little bit more of a chance to go through some of these cards and provide kind of a deep dive. I haven't quite fully figured out how I'm going to structure it, but at least what I can do is give you this. So in terms of becoming a new student in School of Magic as we enter into Strixhaven, this set is largely designed for the enemy color schools of Magic. I'm also personally excited, even though many of you have watched me and consider me a pure aggro player and mono red player, to be playing something that's got a little bit more interactions, a little bit more spell slinging. It is certainly instant speed and sorcery speed spell based, giving us a lot of interesting things per se when it comes to items like the mechanics of Magecraft, which is kind of a prowess of sorts, but special effects by each school that do a lot of different things in terms of board interactions. Additionally, we have that learn capability where we can go pull some of these cards from the sideboard or kind of cycle. So that's going to be really important for us as well. Now, we all read the cards, we all read the cards. We all need to make sure that we read the cards. More importantly, when we do have decks and a meta that's going to be more interacting, not necessarily creature-based like some of the Naya stuff, because those board interactions are going to be even more important, so we're going to have to really lock down and pay attention to those. And the flip side of that is, I don't know, or we'll see how linear some of these decks are in terms of, you know, curve, and generally how you look at some of the aggro stuff, and how you look to a T4, T5 kind of win, or you lock it in. So we'll have to keep an eye on that, because the other thought process there is maybe they're just going to get pummeled by things like mono red. So either way, looking forward to what's to come. I always love the new lore, the art, the bomb rares and mythics, and most of all, a lot of the fun new decks, and bringing you guys a whole slew of stuff. So stay tuned, because obviously I got a lot of top decks, weekly meta stuff, and new tier lists coming your way. Again, you guys know how to stay in touch, and flip me a like if you enjoyed today's session of school, my friends. So, and who knows, maybe Tybalt's still going to make a showing. Show his face. So, with that, my friends, we've covered the best of 1 tier list. We've covered the best of 3 tier list, and I've gone through some of the key observations for you here, and what's kind of unfolded. Now, lastly, what I would like to do is just close out with a couple of key decks that certainly had made an impact on this meta. I think it's, as I always say, it's important to cover some of these things just for continuity, things to keep an eye on, and you still got a day or two here, and you can obviously play these decks in the new meta. So for me, one of the ones that I did want to cover that I thought was a lot of fun was this number 1 mono black auras list. Certainly, I know many of you had asked me about this. This is primarily a best of 1 deck. I did procure a board for you if you want to play best of 3 as well. But a fun deck nonetheless that preys upon creature-based decks, aggro-based decks, and well piloted and well run to number 1. Now, I apologize. The creators of these decks, you can certainly get the information down below in the details off the top of my head. Like yesterday, I'm blanking, so I do apologize there. Again, this deck interacts with the board, with the creatures, gives you draw, pull back from the graveyard. You got recursion, Lurrus, and then the big pieces here with Rankle were super nice. And then also obviously having Faceless Haven in there. Again, that lovely snow mechanic. Next after that, again, always lots of decks that I've covered, but another fun one that I wanted to call out was certainly Naya Runes. I did play this one today on my subscribers interaction on Twitch. Feel free to subscribe there as well to stay up to date. I do stream on Tuesdays and Thursdays, usually in like 8 to 10, 7:30 to 9:30 kind of central time. So feel free to follow me on Twitch and stay up to date there, where I do interact with you a lot more on a one-on-one basis. Also, I love playing the subscribers and things like that. So great way to support and have fun and interact as well. But one of the cool things about this deck is you get Runeforge on and Transcendent Envoy, and essentially you can cast all these things for free. Additionally, you got Storm Herald where you can pull back. I got a great video of this one, and I highly encourage you to check it out. It's a super fun deck, my friends. The last one that I did want to take a look at here for you, that I certainly enjoyed, and had played well for me, and also a big pivotal one, is our lovely top 8 Gruul Fluid deck. So again, this was a deck by Kushiro. This probably, in my opinion, was one of the more impactful competitive one, minus the mono black one that I did. But again, this was the top 8 Kaldheim Championship Series, one of the deck lists here. Certainly powerful, a nice take, has gone through several renditions, and it's extraordinarily viable in the meta as well, my friends. So with that, to close out, as always, Planeswalkers, truly thank you. I don't take any of you for granted. And I appreciate your support. I really do. Feel free to flip me a like if you enjoyed today's tier list. A little bit shorter and sweeter. Hopefully lots of decks for you guys and gals to dig into and enjoy. And we covered off on the best of 1, the best of 3 tier list. We covered off on some of those key observations and trends. We did cover and combine a lot of things that I break into 2, but wanted to get you the information, some things to play with, and then covered a couple of key decks. As we move forward in the Strixhaven, the best advice that I can give you is one at which I've already shared and always share. A lot of the stuff that is good now, will continue to be good for a little bit of a portion, and may continue to also be a top meta deck. So certainly don't shy away if you've already built those decks. It doesn't mean that there's necessarily going to be a better deck. There could be, but generally it's an iteration or slight things that change given the broader state of the decks that you got to play against, or then if the meta narrows as well. So Planeswalkers, as always, today's one of my favorite days. Like I said, lots of work goes into this, and I'm always happy to share it with you. All that information, like I said, is below in the details. Questions, comments, let me know. Feel free to hop in the Discord server. I continue to say that. Great way to support the channel in the details there. And then obviously links to the decks, the videos, and then also my piece that I put together specifically on this on my website. So Planeswalkers, you stay safe, take care. I'm looking forward to joining you in class for Strixhaven here, and we'll continue to provide all my information, top decks, weekly meta analysis, tier list for you as we move into this session. So stay safe, Mythras out. Until next time, Planeswalkers, we got a lot more coming your way.